If you have burn marks in your lawn right now, you need to act on them fast, because the longer you leave a bare patch sitting there, the more weeds and thin grass are going to move in around it and make the whole thing harder to fix. This lawn you are looking at is one we put in only last year, and we walked out one morning to find a gasoline stain from a loose fuel cap on one of our machines, along with a whole set of dog urine burns from our dog, and it damaged grass we had worked really hard to grow in. I'm going to show you exactly how I fixed every single one of the burns, and by the end, you'll know what to do about every dead patch in your yard, and which common mistakes to avoid. There are honestly only 2 categories of burn you need to know about on a residential lawn, and the good news is that you can tell them apart in about 10 seconds just by looking. The first category is a dog urine burn, and the giveaway is a bright green ring of thick, healthy grass sitting around the outside of the dead patch in an almost perfect circle. This happens because dog urine contains a compound called urea, and urea is genuinely a form of fertilizer that we sometimes use on turf in a diluted, spreadable form. At the center of the patch where the dog went, the concentration of that urea is so strong that it burns the grass right out. But at the edges where it spreads and dilutes into the surrounding soil, it actually feeds the grass and gives you that dark green color you see on the ring. The second category is a gasoline burn or a fertilizer burn, and this one looks completely different. There is no green ring around the outside at all, and the shape of the dead area is irregular and random, almost like a splash mark, because that is exactly what it was. The single biggest mistake I see homeowners make with burn marks is throwing a handful of grass seed straight down on top of the dead patch without doing a single thing to prepare the soil underneath. This is genuinely one of the worst things you can do, because that seed has almost no chance of taking. If the soil below is compacted from foot traffic, if there is still gasoline or urea sitting down in the root zone, and if the surface has a crust on it from being baked in the sun, that fresh seed is just going to sit on top, dry out over the next few days, and get eaten by the birds or washed away with the first rain. I have watched this exact thing play out on properties over and over again, and it is the single most common reason people never seem to get their burn patches to come back in properly. The whole point of everything I'm about to show you is making sure the soil underneath is actually ready to grow something before you ever put down a single grass seed. The dog urine burns are the easier of the 2 to fix, so those are where we can start. And the method I am about to walk you through works for any burn that has a green ring around the outside. The first thing you do is grab a spring rake and really pull hard through the dead patch, and I mean hard, because you want to break up the surface of the soil and pull every bit of that dead grass out of there. Most people do not go anywhere near hard enough on this step, and if you leave a layer of dead thatch sitting on top, your new seed has nothing to make contact with. Once the surface is broken up and cleared, take a garden fork and push the tine straight down into the exposed soil in several spots across the patch, then rock it back and forth just a little to open the soil up. That step gets air, water, and eventually your new seed down into the root zone where they can actually do some good. Now for the part that most homeowners have never heard of, which is using a wetting agent to flush out any leftover urea sitting in the soil. You grab a small squirt of regular dish soap, the same stuff sitting next to your kitchen sink, mix it with some water in a watering can or a bottle, and pour it directly into the bare patch. The soap breaks the surface tension of the water, which allows it to carry any of that remaining urea deep down past the root zone and out of the way, so it cannot burn your new seed as it starts to grow. I do have to give you one important warning on this, and it is completely non-negotiable. Do not spray dish soap all over your entire lawn, because that will genuinely cause damage across the whole yard. This trick is only for small localized spots where you are trying to flush out a specific contaminant. Once that is done, grab a bucket and put a couple of handfuls of grass seed in the bottom, then add several handfuls of screened topsoil on top, then another handful of seed, and mix it all together really well with your hand or a small trowel. The reason you mix the seed through the soil rather than sprinkling it on top is that the seed germinates far better when it is in direct contact with soil on all sides, and you get much better coverage that way. Take that mixed material, spread it into the prepared patch until it is level with the surrounding lawn, and give it a light press down with your hand. And that is genuinely the whole fix for a dog urine burn from start to finish. Treating the right problem in the right spot is really what good lawn care comes down to, which is exactly why I put together my book, fix your lawn in 30 days. Most folks I talk to are honestly worn out from spending money on fertilizer that never seems to work, and worn out from watching the same weeds come back every single spring. If that sounds like you, this book is the plan you've been missing. It tells you exactly what to do, what to buy, and when to put it down. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to grab your copy over at fixyourlawnin30days.com and finally get the lawn you have been working for. The gasoline and fertilizer burns are going to take a little more work than the dog urine ones, because the contaminant has soaked down into the soil and has to actually be dealt with before anything is going to grow back in that spot. Take a penknife and cut a clean outline around the dead area, going down about 2 or 3 inches into the soil, then reach for a cordless drill with an auger attachment. Run the auger straight down into the soil inside your outlined patch in several spots, and let it break up the compacted soil and any pollutant that is still sitting in there. This step alone is going to make a huge difference in how well your repair takes, because it gives the fresh seed and topsoil something loose and workable to root into, rather than a hard contaminated mass that nothing wants to grow in. If you know for a fact that a large volume of gasoline went down in that spot, you have the option of digging the contaminated soil out completely, hauling it away, and backfilling with fresh screened topsoil, though for most small spills that we are talking about, breaking it up with the auger is going to be enough on its own. Fill the prepared hole with the same seed and topsoil mixture you made earlier, and this time really firm it down well with the back of your rake or with your boot, because you want no air pockets sitting under there that will collapse and leave you with a dip in the lawn later on. I do have one pro tip for you on this method that most people never think about, and this one really matters if you are doing this repair anywhere from late spring through early fall. Always dig your hole a little bit deeper than you think you actually need to, because a shallow patch of fresh soil is going to dry out really fast in summer heat, and your new seed will dry out along with it, while a deeper hole holds significantly more moisture and gives that seed a much better chance of taking hold before it burns out. And this is a good moment to bring up something that could save you from ever having a gasoline burn on your lawn again, which is honestly the strongest argument I know of for switching your outdoor equipment over from gas powered to battery powered. When you have battery equipment sitting in the garage, there is no fuel cap to come loose. There is no can of gasoline sitting on a shelf waiting to tip over, and there is no chance of a spill ever making it onto your grass in the first place. If you have been on the fence about making that switch, this is genuinely one more reason to go ahead and do it. There is one more situation I want to cover before we wrap up, which is what to do when you have a really large burn patch and pulling the whole thing out would just leave a gaping hole in the middle of your lawn. You have 2 options in that case. The first option is to lift some healthy turf from a hidden edge of your yard, somewhere behind a shed or up against a fence where nobody is going to notice a bare spot, and transplant that turf directly into the damaged area. The second option is the one I usually reach for first, because it is simpler and less disruptive, and it works surprisingly often on larger patches. Take a really close look at the patch and see if there is any green grass still hanging on in between the dead sections. If you can see even a decent amount of surviving grass mixed in there, you can often skip the whole seeding process. Just scrape the dead material off the surface, aerate the soil hard with your fork, and give it a couple of weeks with regular water. In many cases, that surviving grass is going to spread and fill the patch back in on its own without you ever having to reseed a single square foot. The lesson here is to always look at the patch before you decide how aggressive you need to be with the fix, because the biggest and most disruptive method is rarely the right one. And this next part is honestly the most important one in the whole video, because fixing what is already there is only half the job, and the other half is making absolutely sure you are not out here doing the exact same repair on the exact same patches every summer for the rest of your life. For the gasoline and fertilizer side of things, that means switching over to battery equipment where you can, storing any fuel you do keeping a proper sealed can away from the lawn, and never filling a fertilizer spreader while it is sitting on the grass, because a small overflow that you might not even notice can absolutely burn a patch overnight. For the dog urine side, the most effective thing you can do is train your dog to go in one designated spot out of the way of the main lawn, maybe a mulched area behind the garage or a corner you do not care about as much, because if all the urine is landing in one place, it is not damaging the rest of the yard. It is also worth talking to your vet about the food your dog is eating, because certain diets produce lower concentrations of urea in the urine and can make a real difference. But please talk to your vet before you change anything rather than switching food on your own based on a video you saw online. And on top of all of that, always pick up dog waste the moment it happens, because even the waste itself will damage grass if it sits on the lawn for more than a day or two. Now let me actually show you the after that I promised you at the start of this video. Walking around the lawn a few weeks after doing all of the work I just described, you can see for yourself how well every one of these methods came together. The dog urine patches where we raked, aerated, flushed with dish soap and seeded are now completely filled in with fresh green grass, and unless I told you exactly where to look, you would honestly have a hard time even finding them. The gasoline burn where we cut it out and used the auger has new grass coming up through the fresh topsoil, and it is already starting to blend in with the surrounding lawn as it grows out. The large patch that we simply scraped and aerated without reseeding has come back in on its own from the surviving grass, exactly like I told you it would. All of this is being mowed at the same normal height as the rest of the lawn, and the only thing that is really going to make or break your results at this stage is keeping the water going. Because if any of these patches do struggle, it is almost always going to come down to the fact that they did not get enough water in the first 2 or 3 weeks after the repair. Let me pull all of this together into one clean order of operations for you, because I have thrown a lot of information at you across this video, and it genuinely helps to have the whole plan sitting in one place. Start by walking out to your lawn and diagnosing every burn patch you find, because a bright green ring around the outside tells you it is dog urine, while an irregular splash shape with no green ring tells you it is gasoline or fertilizer. For the dog urine patches, rake the dead material out hard, aerate with a garden fork, flush the spot with a squirt of dish soap mixed with water, then apply a bucket mixture of grass seed and screen topsoil and level it off with the surrounding lawn. For the gasoline and fertilizer patches, cut the dead area out with a penknife. Break up the soil with a drill and auger attachment, or dig it out completely if the spill was severe, then fill with the same seed and topsoil mixture, firm it down well, and remember to dig deeper than you think in summer heat. For a really large burn patch with some surviving green grass mixed in, skip the reseeding entirely and just scrape, aerate, and water. And on the prevention side, switch to battery equipment where you can, put the dog urine tips into practice, and pick up dog waste the moment it happens. The bottom line on all of this is that burn marks on a lawn look like a complete disaster the first time you see them, but they are genuinely one of the easiest problems you will ever fix in your yard, as long as you take the 2 minutes to diagnose the cause correctly and then match your method to that cause. The people who end up repairing the same patches every single summer, year after year, are the ones who never dealt with what caused the burn in the first place, whether that was the loose fuel cap on the mower, the dog going in the same corner of the yard every morning, or the spreader that overflowed on the grass. If you fix what is there this weekend and then genuinely change the habit that caused the damage in the first place, you honestly are not going to be back out here doing this same job next spring or the spring after that. I really hope this video helps you finally get your burn marks under control and your lawn looking the way you want it to look. If you have your own method for repairing burns that we did not cover today in this video, please drop it down in the comments below, because I love hearing what has worked for other people out there in their own yards. And I would genuinely love to know what kind of burns you are dealing with right now on your property. Is it dog urine burns taking over the back corner where your dog goes every morning? Is it a gasoline stain from a piece of equipment that leaked in the garage? Is it fertilizer that got put down too heavy in one section? Or is it all three of those at the same time? Let me know down in the comments. Fix them once the right way this year, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.